Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hello, you're listening to the podcast, So There I Was. That's how all great aviation tales begin. This one is, look at that mustache. You can trust that guy. Episode 134.
What's an amazing mustache.
Yeah, right? Oh,
Yeah.
man. Go to his
RobRoy.
YouTube channel and see it.
Yeah, RobRoy, at Fly RobRoy. Amazing.
As in
mustache.
RobRoy
You'll see
McGregor.
what we mean.
Yeah. That
From
thing
the
is,
clan McGregor.
yeah, that thing has got its own zip code.
It does have his own zip code. It has its own attitude. It has its own lat long. Anyway, yeah, second half of RobRoy. Just, put it across the T, dot the I. Talks about, let's see, how his career went. Got back to the Naval Academy somehow. We're not going to spoil that.
Right. But he was at the Naval Academy on a very famous night. The night
my
they took out
gosh.
Bin Laden.
That's right.
He talks a little bit about that, what that was like, life at the Naval Academy, what that was like. And some good descriptions of getting aboard the carrier.
Yeah, and you get in some of the technical aspects of that.
Right.
He
it's
really went into
fascinating stuff.
burble and the Frenzel lens, also known as the meatball. And, for us, it's just a good review, but for our non-naval aviator listeners, it's a good technical, dumbed down to general discussion. How's that?
So even a Marine pilot can figure it out.
I got it the first time through because he dumbed it down to my IQ level. Yes,
There you
thank
go. So, yeah. Then he talked about his other projects. Again, we already mentioned youtube.com/@FlyRobRoy with over 100,000 viewers. Some of you guys come over here and listen to us too. And his new project is flybuyer.com.
Flybuyer.
Yeah. He's reviewing airplanes so that when you're looking for an airplane, you go, oh, okay, what is an Apache like? What is a Debonair like? What is a Tiger like?
What's a Gulfstream 5 like?
Yeah. I'm thinking of buying a couple of those.
We should see if we get a deal, just an even 4. What do you think?
Right? Yeah. That's all I'll ever do is think about it.
Well, if you'd quit spending your pocket change on that damn Grumman of yours, we could probably buy us a couple of Gulfstreams. Come on, man.
That's right. We could fly in formation to locations and do live shows. Oh, man. You donors are going to have to really step it up for that to happen. Let me tell you.
We're going to need some. Hey, listen, if you buy the jet for us, we'll take you for a ride. I promise. It'll be awesome.
Right? Exactly.
Oh, that hurt.
Yeah. Gonna have to. Hey, FDI, sorry to tell you, we're going to have to raise your rates. They're our sponsor this week.
Yeah.
Glad
Thank you,
to have
FDI,
them back.
by the way.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated. And a couple donors to mention.
I'm pulling that up because I got off that page. Here it is. Bill A. Thank you, Bill. He gave us $25. He writes, love your podcast. Thank you for bringing to life the stories of those who serve and sacrifice. I'm in awe listening to everyone. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you, Bill. It's very humbling, and thank you for your donation.
Caesar's back.
Caesar, my man.
Yeah, Caesar. All right. And Master, he's been with us 16 months now and still going. So thank you for your generosity every month. We really appreciate it. And there's more people than not doing that every month, the pilot donations. And we are grateful. If you go over to sotherewas.us/Patreon, you too can donate. And our way of saying thank you is try to give you a little extra, at least every other week or so. We try to do that. And then thinking of weekly and every other week and that sort of thing. Fig, I'm getting more and more feedback that breaking these up just isn't the thing to do.
Okay.
So, we're going to have to go back
tried
to
it. We're listening to the feedback. So
we're trainable.
We are trained. Yes.
Yeah.
It may be painful to watch at times, but we are trained.
That's right. So we've taken that under advisement. We'll probably go back to a little bit more long form, and then where that may come get us, especially as the holidays approach, is we may take a week or two off here. So bear with us. We're not going away. We're not going anywhere, but trying to get a show out every week is a little bit difficult as the holidays approach, but we'll do our best. Got some exciting ones coming up.
That's a fact. Just coordinating all the calendars, especially around the holidays with our guests, sometimes get to be a challenge.
right? I can't even coordinate my own, let alone yours and a guests and sticks and
yes.
Bago. And so they don't want to hear this crap, though. They want to hear RobRoy.
Why do we get out of the way?
Let's do it. Don't lose an engine on the cat shot.
I was going to say, don't sit on the cat shot. Wait, don't sit on the.
Here's
Wait,
a true story.
what? He doesn't have anything to say.
Just don't lose an engine.
At night,
Don't lose an engine on the cat.
in the world's smallest cockpit, on the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding.
No, he's not.
No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the...
So there I was, a senior at the United States Naval Academy the night that bin Laden was killed, and the place went absolutely bananas in celebration around midnight.
Nice.
What was everybody doing up at midnight, for crying out loud?
Cramming for the next day's exam.
Yeah, I mean, we were all getting ready to go to bed, and then just like news started coming out, and people just went crazy. Everyone
Memorizing the breakfast menu.
Yeah, right. Well, the plebes were, absolutely. As they should be. Yeah.
Oh, man. That was a thing, huh? You guys had to do that shit as a plebe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'd have 3 days of meals memorized. So breakfast, lunch, dinner times 3 out. So they'd be like, what do we have for lunch on Tuesday? And you tell them like the whole, and I'm talking, it wasn't like French, or tacos. It'd be like 15 items on the list. I mean, you got to the point where you memorized the first couple sections of each menu were the same. Like, I mean, I'm completely drawing a blank on what it was, but whatever the milk and the juice was, and you just kind of spit those things off. Eventually you start making up meals. You're like,
Yeah. And roast pork chop with a demi glaze.
Yeah. I wish.
All right. Oh, very cool. All right. So I interrupted you. Sorry. I ruined the whole flow of that damn thing. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, so how's the cow? Don't start. How's the cow? Oh man, what is how's the cow? Man, you're pulling out some old ones.
So that's from Styx. He threw that banner up there that says,
she walks, she talks, she's full of chalk. I mean, that's things people listening will have no idea what we're talking about. Rates.
I have no idea, but Styx clearly does, or he wouldn't have put the banner.
Yeah, Styx. Yeah. Nice. We had a book called Reef Points. You can look it up. Type in Reef Points Naval Academy, and it's this little blue book. And they've changed over the years, but it's that thick, and it's got it's called professional knowledge. So, random stuff like that, like how's the cow? And it's like this whole response, mission of the Naval Academy. And then it would go into, Hornets, E2, C2s, like all the submarines. I mean, it's like basically you're trying to memorize in a hurry what is going on in the Navy and Marine Corps. And you just had to, and they could just, from day one, they could just ask you anything in that book, and you were expected to know it. Which obviously, yeah, there you go. There's Reef Points.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously, you don't.
Now we keep that up.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That sounds almost like. Do you remember, Fig? Did you have that book at OCS? Your knowledge, break out your knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing for the Marine Corps. You had to
I've incorporated that into my everyday life now.
Yeah.
RobRoy, I have a question. Actually, I know the answer to it, but I would like for you, because I don't think we could really cover it. We try to define acronyms. Growler. You said, hey, you were thinking maybe you would try to transition to growlers. What is define growler for our non-aviator audience?
So Hornet. I mean, every airplane has a nickname, like Tomcat, Hornet, Viper, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. The Growler is the E-A18G Super Hornet Growler. It's made by Boeing. No joke inside, or jokes with that. But it's basically they took a fighter jet, a Hornet, a Super Hornet. Well, backing it up, they took a Hornet and they created a Super Hornet back in like the late 90s, early 2000s. So they took a known platform, Boeing did, and then improved upon it. And then the Growler replaced the Prowler, and it's an electronic attack platform. So basically, what's nice about the Growler is that it's this basically I don't know the number, but let's say 95% same parts as a Super Hornet. So because if you go back to like the 90s in naval aviation on a carrier, like when Top Gun came out, or the 80s, I mean, you've got E2, C2s, Vikings, Tomcats, Hornets, Prowlers. What am I missing? Oh, I don't know.
Probably, A4s and Phantoms were phasing out.
At some point, sure, yeah. You've got, and now today they've got, well, they're about to be E2s, the Osprey, and a version of a Hornet. So and the F-35 is kind of coming on board. But when I was going through, it was just we had Legacy Hornets, Super Hornets, Growlers, and then E2s and C2s. And so a Growler is a electronic attack platform. You're basically a fighter pilot. I think they drop bombs, but more not necessarily conventional bombs. And that's a Prowler. And then they certainly can shoot missiles, but what they're doing is they're jamming enemy radars. So, but what's cool is they can keep up with a Hornet because they're the exact same platform basically, and they can stick with it, fly with it, have about the same range as it, put on the same tanks and all that stuff to extend the range. But they have a much different role to play. And actually, my last flight in the Navy was in a Growler. So I got shot off the Roosevelt in the back of a Growler, and that's going to be one of my last videos with my YouTube channel. As far as the Navy stuff goes, is my last flight in the Navy. I got a bunch of GoPro footage of me in a Growler.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That was on my list from the last show, and I wanted to make sure we got that out. Also, carrier landings. You I already stated you have landed on all kinds of different carriers because that's what your platform did. What did you end up with in carrier landings? Number? I think. Yeah. So it's just curious.
From the left seat, it's got to be in the 80s. Total, it's got to be, I think it's like 130. I added them up because we had two seats, we would switch every time basically. And the way that it worked out was every 3 times I'd fly to the boat, I was in the left. One of the 3, I was in the left seat. So 2 of the 3 usually in the right seat, 1 of the 3. And it all came down to who needed the trap. So I say like I've got 130 carrier landings because like I was in the cockpit part of that mission, like right there for the carrier landings, but I only in the left seat about, I think 80 or so times. And it all came down to who needed the trap. So you can only, I forget, I think it's like 16 days or something. You can only land if you go outside of, what is it, like bits and all, back in the saddle and your requirements, you have to take another trap at the carrier. So if you were up at like 14, 15 days, we would fly out to the boat in the left seat. And usually we would switch. So a lot of my videos, people are like, how come you're always in the left seat? Well, it's because I was flying and I hit record. I mean, if I was in the right seat, a lot of times the guys didn't really want me filming their landings or whatnot. It didn't make them comfortable.
Sure.
But I did fly all the time in the right seat, arguably a lot more in the right seat to the ship.
Thank you.
Well, because that was going to be my question. Did you ever land from the right seat though?
No, and you never will. It's a big no-no. Yeah. So another insider information. So basically it came down to if you're, we don't call the ball, during daytime and when you're underway, but if you're like flying the ball or your pilot is flying the ball and you're in the right seat and he dies, worst case scenario, right? Heart attack, right? You would not land that plane from the right seat, nor would you go around, circle back around and land it again. You would wave off, go up to a couple thousand feet, have your aircrewman come from the back, pull his body out, and then you would get in the left seat to land that airplane. So it was very much, there's one of my sons. It was very much, built into us, ingrained that you shall land from the left seat. And now on land, we landed all the time from the right seat. I mean, we were very proficient in the right seat, but just that carrier, they're not messing around, and the muscle memory and always looking to in all the videos, I'm always looking, people are like, what's he looking at? And I'm looking at the carrier. Like, it's all about spacing. You guys get it. It's all spacing and alignment. I mean, there's no trees I can reference. It's all like, okay, I'm 1 mile, DME a beam and looks good, kind of do some of that pilot shit. And here we go.
That looks about right.
Yeah.
So, okay.
That's about right. That's exactly right.
Never been in the cockpit of a C2 or E2. Yeah. Are the cockpits, and this was a question from one of our listeners.
It is. Yeah, I saw that.
Is it the same layout?
As far as I know, it's the exact same. Maybe 99%. I mean, maybe I don't even think they control, there's my voice, sorry with sickness. I don't even think they control the dome at all. I mean, that's all the NFOs in the back, naval flight officers. But I've sat on a bucket in an E2. Like I took off from it in the back, and then they didn't put me in the seat. But it was also when I was on the Truman for my Admiral, disassociated CTOR. So I got to fly in an E2 and then I got to fly in a Growler. And I wasn't, at that point still qualified or up to fly the E2 by any means. But we can, another fun fact. So if you're a qualified aircraft commander in the E2 or the C2, so it goes 3P, 2P, AC. 3P is, I guess, third pilot. 2P is second pilot. AC is aircraft commander. But if you're an aircraft commander in 1 or 2 or one or the other, you can get a letter from your commanding officer, or maybe it's like the other squadron's commanding officer. So in my case, if I was an aircraft commander in a C2, which I was, I could have gotten a letter to fly as a right-seater or as a 3P, not landing on the carrier in an E2, because it is literally that similar. Okay. We were not allowed to trap in each other's planes, but I had buddies that flew in E2s and they logged some time. So they would literally go, when you're a C2 pilot, I mean, you kind of get bored of doing the same thing. Like, hey, we're going back to the hotel again, I guess. But you kind of want to do some of the mission, even though you love leaving the ship every night. And one of my buddies, he got to fly in an E2. I think he flew out in the back, but then he got to get some airtime over Afghanistan at the time, in the right seat, because he was at that point a qualified 3P in the E2. Because they're not dropping bombs, at that point they are a glorified, I guess a bus driver. They're just a glorified chauffeur for the NFOs in the back, saying go here, circle this, do that. And they're like, okay, that's it. That's all they're doing. Yeah. Is
it set up to fly from either seat equally, or the throttle's closer to the guy in the left seat? You know what I'm saying? Is it more ergonomically?
No, it's equal. Yeah, it's equal. I mean,
so
they're
it's
right
just
in the middle
thing.
there.
You only landed from the left seat on the
only land on the boat from the left seat. We would land all the time from the right seat.
Okay.
I mean, at one point I was probably better in the right seat, just because, unlike repeat what you guys do in the big leagues. We start off in the left seat. This whole captain, first officer nonsense. It's just I love Naval Aviation, how it's we were in the left seat right away. And then when you get good at that, then you go to the right seat to teach the next guy coming through. It wasn't this you earn your spot to be in the left seat after however many years. But so we were good at both. And eventually I was probably better in the right seat than I was in the left, because you're flying the new guys.
Well, that's Fig and I like to say, though, at the majors, we're in the left seat because we're much better pilots with far more experience. And finesse.
Yeah.
But it all boils down to how many days you've been there.
That's right.
Totally.
That's right.
Well, and unlike,
I know what you mean, though.
You guys are switching pilots every flight. I mean, obviously in the squadron, it's the same 10 guys, and so you kind of get that.
Fair enough. Yeah. So here's a question that I think I know the answer to, but I bet a lot of people don't. Joystick or yoke?
In the C2, a yoke.
Yeah. Yoke. Okay.
Yeah. Stick in T-34, stick in T-45s jets, and then a yoke, sadly, in the T-44, which is like a King Air, and then yoke in the C2. So, yeah, I miss stick flying big time. I put a deposit down on a Bearhawk. It's an experimental bush plane. I talk about it in my newsletter, and one of the things I'm excited for is that it's got a stick. So I'm looking forward to flying with a stick again. But I mean, we banked and yanked that yoke a lot behind the boat. It did not get in our way.
I've seen some cockpit videos on YouTube from I don't know if it's the E2 or C2 guys, but yeah, I would wholeheartedly concur with what you just said. There was a massive amount of control movement going on.
Yeah, were they my videos? Is that what you saw, Fig?
Maybe. Yeah. Do you do yours to music?
No. Yeah.
Oh, that's the Bearhawk? That was the picture?
Yeah, one of the Bearhawks.
Had the Bearhawk.
Yeah, that's a patrol. So that's a 2-seater. I think it's a front and back, like a tandem 2-seater. What I want is
looks like a Super Cub with
I want a Bearhawk
big
5.
Wheels.
I want a Bearhawk 5. So it's a 6-seater. It is a true 6-seater. I talked to the owner of the company. It can carry 6 200-pound adults, but it's like a four place with room for cargo in the back. But it would be 2, 2, and 2. But that's what I want. I mean, you see my family walking around, and we live in Montana.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I want a little backcountry machine. I feel like it's the closest I can get to landing on a boat. That's a Bearhawk 5. I think the closest I can get to landing on a carrier again would be flying into some backcountry airstrip in Idaho or Montana.
Nice.
That's my assessment.
Take it up to Alaska.
Yeah, exactly.
So the
all right, last
was up in Anchorage. Go ahead, Vic.
No, you keep going. I'll come back to this.
I was to say I was up in Anchorage and went flying with the son of a friend of mine who lives up there, and watching people land on 400, 500 foot gravel islands in the middle of rivers and that kind of stuff. I mean, the precision with which the bush pilots are flying up there.
Yeah.
is eye-watering.
I've been told that it's very similar to landing on the ship. I've never done it, but I mean, they're all about energy management. That was our bread and butter, was AOA and angle of attack. And, you're high enough on the power that you can get out of dodge if you need to, but you're not flaring it, obviously, and all that stuff. Yeah. Question from Paul there, metal or fabric? So the Bearhawk in particular is a steel frame. Basically, think of like a giant, it's like a roll bar in a sense, but with fabric covering. Although the Bearhawk has aluminum wings. So I think it's the best of both worlds. It's got metal wings and a fabric body, and then metal cowling, obviously, but a metal wrapped airframe. Yeah. But some like the Kit Fox and stuff like that, they are mostly fabric with some reinforced metal pieces. But Bearhawk is a good balance of both, but a lot of fabric for sure.
Okay. Now, are you building this? Are you going to build this yourself, assemble it yourself?
No, they have a builder assist program, which costs some money that I'm trying to save up for, but I don't have the time or the inclination to build an airplane from scratch. I think what those guys do, and part of my job now with Flybuyer, my newsletter, I'm very much in that world, and I think it's amazing what these guys can do, and women. I just 1,000 hours minimum. I mean, you're talking maybe 2,000 hours that equates to, let's say, 2 years. I don't have that, and I'd rather. So the build assist program, this is very in the weeds. The way that it works with the FAA and having experimental airplane, not certified. So certified would be Cessna, Piper, right? All that. Experimental is Bearhawk, Kit Fox. And what that means is, RV. Yeah. And for people listening, not an RV trailer, there's a company called Vans RV, and it's just, anyway, really in the weeds. But a certified airplane like a Cessna, if you want to switch out the cushions of your seat in a Cessna 172, that is a huge process. You can't do it without FAA approval. If you want to put on a new landing light, it's got to be a certified, and it's going to cost 3 to 4 times as much. Literally, I mean, you can go to Garmin.com and look up avionics, and once that'll be certified, and once that'll be the same thing with an X for experimental. It'll be 3 times the cost for the certified. The exact same avionics, from what I understand. So Bearhawk is experimental, and so I'm looking forward to that. But no, it's a builder assist program, and I'm looking forward to having them, hold my hand. Literally, they're going to walk me through it. And what I was going to say is, with a builder assist program through the FAA, you have to have 51% hands-on of your airframe. Whether or not it really comes out to that, I don't know. I'll report back in 2 years, but basically you do have a very active role in building your airplane, but you're not the one with the finishing touches, which is totally fine by me.
Okay. Sweet.
Especially when it's your first airplane.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, my first airplane. Yeah, I don't.
Well, I have peers, and I'm sure Reaper does too, that have, and are in different stages of building something.
Oh, yeah.
And almost all of them say, I wish I just would have paid somebody to put this thing together.
And not all companies or kit manufacturers even offer that ability. So, I mean, the Bearhawk didn't until it just got bought up by a guy a few years, my junior. Another reason why I went with that company, his name's Virgil Irwin. Shout out to BearhawkAircraft.com. And I mean, they're revamping the entire, it's a proven airframe. They've only got a couple hundred that exist, but they're modernizing the whole thing. I mean, what Trent Palmer has done, if you're familiar with that, and with Kit Fox and the whole bush flying world, he's really opened up the doors for people learning about this industry on a grand scale. And Bearhawk is kind of capitalizing on that. And they really specialize in these bigger airplanes for backcountry purposes, which I'm excited for with my kids.
What kind of motor would you put in that?
So they have, let me look up the exact one. They have a bunch of Lycoming options. Let's see here. If I go to 5, cost aside, they offer the latest is a Lycoming YIO 580, 315 horsepower. I think the usual, if you really want a big engine that's not that big, it'd be the 540. That's a typical one. But some airplanes have a Rotax, which sips fuel 7 or 8 gallons an hour. But Lycoming is what Bearhawk is going for, and that's looking forward
for
to that.
Our non-aviator listeners. So there I was. These kit build airplanes. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but by far the biggest expense is probably the power plant.
Oh yeah.
Oh, unless you're going to go crazy with avionics, I'm guessing it's the power plant.
Sure. I mean, the kits are before COVID, before bush flying YouTube, I mean, they're probably, I don't know, 30,000 to 50,000. Now you can push, 50 to 90, but some engines are 50,000 minimum to 80,000, depending on what you get. And then avionics, you could spend, I don't know, a couple thousand or 50,000 on Garmin, the latest, greatest Garmin. So, I mean, it can be a several $100,000 expense which is why I'm trying to get my business ramped up so I can pay for it. But yeah, it still is a lot cheaper than probably buying a brand new, airframe that's certified.
Oh yeah, those are completely unreasonable nowadays.
Yeah, I worked for Cirrus Aircraft on the sales team. So I was on the sales team with Cirrus. Yeah,
okay.
And people, I mean, those are what, $1.3 million for the SR-22Ts and the Vision Jets are 3+. And yeah, it's just a trade-off, right? I mean, it's just like, do you want, and the last thing I'll say in the whole thing, unless you guys want to keep going, is the difference between certified and experimental. And this is not naval aviation related whatsoever. This is
aside from the cash.
Yeah. Well, aside from the cash and like with experimental, you can put on, like you could go to Napa Auto Parts and get the latest LED light for your certified airplane. That's a Vision Jet. Right. But like, you can't do that with a Cessna. But the big underlying difference is that certified, it's all about where's the liability fall? Certified, the liability falls on the manufacturer, just like Ford, Chevy, right? Whereas experimental, it falls on the builder. So it falls on you. And it's like mandated by the FAA. There's a placard when you get into the cockpit of these small airplanes, these bush planes, and it says like, warning, it'll say experimental, like in huge letters across, like in multiple places. And it'll say this airplane is not certified for, whatever, by the FAA. Basically meaning that this was built literally at home and, we did not get eyes on it. And so if you die and kill yourself or kill somebody else, that kind of falls back on you and your liability, versus if the Cessna or the Cirrus breaks and it wasn't pilot error, then it's going to fall on the manufacturer. And that's where the cost comes in too.
Right.
Okay. Can I shift gears?
Yeah.
Shift, man.
Okay.
Upshift or downshift?
COD Squadron, C-2 Squadron. How many pilots, how many airplanes? Just give me average.
We had about, I want to say 25 pilots. I think 20 of them were JOs, junior officers, and, front office, skipper and XO made up 2 of those, and then a couple 04s. So about 25 to 30. And then airplanes at the time, we had maybe like 10, maybe like 8 to 12, something like that. How many were up?
No, that's a different story.
That's classified.
Our chief senior be like, when do you need up by, sir? And you're like, yeah, 1 hour. You got it. Yes, sir. Like, all right.
So
half an hour. I need it in 10 minutes, Scotty.
Exactly.
Did you guys fly a lot, RobRoy? Would you consider, C2 flying? Did you get a lot of flying? What'd you end up with in the COD? How many hours?
About 1,000 in the COD or thereabouts.
After one fleet tour, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was. I think it was just under 1,000. Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, it was. Yeah. We get a lot, and then because when I was deployed, I was one of 7 pilots with 1 extra officer who was the maintenance officer, and one of the 7 was our OIC. So it was like 6 JOs, and I was not an aircraft commander at the time for that deployment. I was a lieutenant, same rank, but not in charge of the airplane. And it was usually like 2 lieutenants flying together. So we would we're flying to the boat. I flew the boat every other day or every day in some instances, which, of course gets mundane, but looking back, like I would love to go flying. I remember complaining about like getting a flight on a Sunday, not on deployment. I'm like, I gotta fly on a Sunday. Now I'm like, what I would give to go fly to the carrier on a Sunday?
Right.
Minus the studying and the headaches and like the stress, but
there's that. But
but unrelated.
So how long did you spend on the carrier deployed as opposed to just going out and hitting it? You said 8 months. Was that?
It was an 8-month deployment. Yeah.
Okay.
And we only slept on it for a couple weeks at a time. Like we were the last ones on. It like pulled out from Norfolk, and then Hornets go on, Growlers go on, E2 goes on, Helos fly on, and then like we come on, right, with all of our. And the cool thing about the C2 community, I don't know if the Osprey can do this, but 2 C2s, right, 2 CODs can carry everything they need to have to sustain their existence overseas, minus like barring a crazy engine part that's needed to be shipped from Grumman or Norfolk or whatever. But I mean, we would stuff that plane with those 2 planes with people, and then we basically, as the ship went east, we kind of started like hop skipping. We would like fly to Portugal, back to the ship, fly to Spain, back to the ship, fly to Italy, back to the ship, back to Greece, right? And then we were supposed to fly from Greece to Bahrain, but we ended up riding through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, which was interesting. And And yeah, but then once we were in Bahrain, we were there for 6.5 months, right? Basically, like a month transit either way, let's say, or ballpark. And we were completely self-reliant from ourselves. And we had, any given time, we had a couple maintainers that were, attached to the ship, for a couple of days. And we worked very closely with the E2 squadron. So shout out to the E2 guys. They really took care of us. And we took care of them. We would bring them shawarma pizzas and tuxedos that they got made at the local market, all that stuff. And always taking favors and bribes.
But no beer, vodka, or bourbon, I'm sure, ever.
No. I did get, I forget which carrier it was, but one of the, I don't know, some 06, who says that? Some water purifier, I don't know, like broke on the carrier. And so the ship had no fresh water, or they're like limited fresh water, right? So that can only last so long with a couple thousand people on board and sustaining life, but they really limited washing dishes. So they had us bring like a whole cod worth of paper plates, and they had like no fresh vegetables. And the guy, the 06, the captain, was like, "Hey, Rob, here's $40. Can you go to the exchange and bring me back as many salad bags as you can get just so we can have some greens in the wardroom?" But yeah, you take little bribes like that. But we do feel bad, especially at one point we were like, I mean, the Hornet guys, they were bombing ISIS, all night long for a month. And that is tough. So we would land on the boat at like, dawn, basically, which is their sundown, essentially. So they're all exhausted. And we're like, "Hey guys, what's going on? Like, we're here, and then we get out of there, and they're just like, "I hate you guys." It's like, well, I wanted Hornets, but no one wanted C2s, so that's what you get.
Yeah,
weird. There you go. It actually seems like a pretty cool mission. You're never going to get island fever stuck on the ship for months at a time.
Right.
You're getting off fairly regularly. And like you say, I'm surprised the captain didn't want some alcohol to sterilize that food. And, So, tell you what, let's take another quick break and come back and talk about a little more of this and then what you're doing now.
Sounds good.
So, yeah. Thank you, FTI, for what you do to help keep us going.
Hey, fellow aviators. Today, we're diving into something you aspiring airline pilots and those needing an ATP, ATP-CTP, or type rating will definitely want to hear. Flight Training International, or FTIratings.com, since 1993, FTI has been setting the standard for top-tier pilot training.
Exactly, Sticks. But FTI isn't your typical flight school. It's a veteran-founded institution that's all about providing high-quality, cost-effective training across a wide range of airliners. Whether you're training on Airbus or Boeing simulators, they've got it covered. These simulators are as real as it gets. They mimic the exact conditions you'll face out there in the real world.
And these simulators are no joke. Full motion, FAA certified, and the same ones the major airlines use worldwide. So every training session isn't just practice, it's the real deal. Plus, their instructors have been in your shoes. For those transitioning from military jets to commercial airliners, they make that process smooth.
That's right. The instructors at FTI are top-notch. We're talking about seasoned professional pilots with military backgrounds and years of experience flying commercial airliners all over the world. They're there to guide you, to teach you, and ensure that you're prepared for everything. So when you take your check ride, everything will feel very, very familiar.
FTI Ratings offers a special program like the ATP-CTP training program, or Airline Transport Pilot Certification Training Program, which Congress mandated to make sure pilots are fully ready for the demands of modern aviation. And the best part, you can access all of this training right from your iPad at your convenience.
And because we love giving our listeners a deal, we've got one just for you. Mentioned, so there I was when signing up for your first course at FTI and get a sweet $100 off. Whether you're an experienced pilot looking to get a type rating or a military aviator transitioning to commercial, FTI is your launch pad.
So what are you waiting for? Head over to FTIratings.com. That's FTIratings.com. Join the ranks of the impressive alumni, which include pilots from the Air Force, the Navy, even the FAA. If they trust FTI, you can too.
Absolutely. And don't forget, you can use your veterans benefits to cover the cost of FTI. So get ready and prepare for takeoff. Visit FTIratings.com and get started today. Your future as a top-tier airline pilot starts at Flight Training International. That's FTIratings.com. Don't just fly. Soar with FTI. Oh, man. Yeah. Thank you, FTI, for continuing to support us. There's RobRoy on picture in front of his mighty C2.
So you can trust that guy because of his mustache.
That's
Look
right.
at that mustache. That mustache is amazing.
That's a Tom Selleck special there, baby.
That
So-
is
It could have been
amazing.
6 months in. That's over. That's in Bahrain. So that's where we were.
Yeah.
It's another fun fact. We have tan flight suits and green flight suits, and by we I mean this is what we did back then. I don't know what to do now, but we only wear the tan ones when we got to Fifth Fleet, so over in the Middle East. So, which does help,
Okay.
I guess. But
So, and looking at that engine, so what you talked about extending the life of the C2 there at some point, and hang on here, trying to get my notes squared away for later. Tell me about the engine on that thing. I'm noting eight blades on the prop there.
Mhm.
That looks efficient.
yeah, they were what was it, Allison T56A turboprops. It was like 4,600 shaft horsepower a side. 8-bladed props. They used to be 4-bladed back certainly in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then sometime in the mid 2000s they switched to 8 blades, which is the same 8-blade, if I'm not mistaken. That's definitely the E2s, but I think like some C-130s have them. What are they? Hamilton, Sunstrand? I don't know. I forget the manufacturer, but 8-bladed props, so great to bite through the air, and then a crap ton of horsepower. And the reason is that if you, worst case scenario, you're taking a catapult launch, and you lose an engine right after you go. So like you can't abort the takeoff. You lose an engine, it just dies. With the other engine, you could firewall it, so take the throttle full forward, and you could still fly away, through ground effect, and basically fly away from the water. And that's why it's so much horsepower. And along with that, though, comes a ton of right rudder and a ton of, hence the yoke movements in some of my videos and like fighting in the burble. Do you guys know what the burble is? I'm sure you do, but you're listening.
Yeah, but let's talk about that.
Yeah. Talk about the burble.
So when you land on the boat, I use my hands here like any self-respecting pilot would. Yeah. So the carrier goes is going this way, right? But the landing area is like this. So as the ship is propelling itself forward, making wind,
about a 10-degree angle,
right? The landing area is like off to the side. So you actually fly the pattern off of the carrier, right? But as you come around, when you come here to base to final, basically for the approach turn, you kind of are continuing to go past it to line up on this angled final approach. And along with that, the ship has a big tower, obviously, and that is a big wind blocker, and that creates what's called the burble. So you're flying. There you go. So you're flying into the wind, or at least the wind's coming from a certain, maybe like 10 degrees from your right ish. And then the wind goes away because the tower blocks it. And then you're back in the wind again. So it just creates this, as you can see in the picture, swirlies. And so add that in with a ton of horsepower, a ton of, the other thing about flying the ball, an angle of attack, and what that means is that we, as people know in all the Instagram videos, like Navy pilot versus Air Force pilot landing, and like the Navy guy just slams in the deck. I don't know about that. Like on land, we would never slam into the deck. We always would flare. But on the carrier, you absolutely have to fly, on speed, which is the right angle of attack. So in my videos, it's like we have an AOA indexer, and you see an amber circle and 2 chevrons, one red, one green for slow and fast. And we had to be on the amber circle or very close to it. And that is the angle at which our plane is at, so that the tail hook can literally catch the wire at the right angle. And if you were not on speed, right, if you were too fast, you were like this, so the hook would be too shallow. If you were too slow, very dangerous, you could grab the one wire, hit the back of the boat, which would kill you and a lot of people around you. Very scary. Much better to be fast than slow, and all things aviation, but certainly behind the carrier. And so that was kind of all the things happening with landing on the boat. So you got the burble, you have an angled runway, we have a ton of horsepower. And so what I mean by that is, like, we have to be up on the power in order to be on speed. And also so that we can, it's like this perfect balance of, if we were any more on the power, we would fly away. If we're any less on the power, we wouldn't have enough get out of jail free like power if something really went wrong. So you're very high on the power. So a lot of times, like, we're flying, and the Hornet guys, you can really hear this in their videos, but we are a good a really good aviator is not necessarily seesawing it, but we were kind of like we're always like giving it a shot of power.
Jocking the throttles all the way down. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason for that is because you're trying to keep the ball energized. So Sticks, if you keep that photo up, that's called an IFLOS, for Improved Fresnel Landing Optic System. That is the ball. And you can't really see it in this photo, but you got the green lights and the red lights. But in the middle, that one that is not lit up, there's
vertical
right
column.
here.
There it is. Thank you.
So that's the ball. And picture one of those yellow lights being lit up. When it's high, it looks white. When it's low, it's red. Red, you're dead. When you're right on glide slope, it's kind of center, and it's maybe a little high. You want to be a little above center, and it's an amberish color. And the reason for that is because that's literally showing where you are on glide slope coming into land on the carrier. So you want to be on glide slope. And it's much better to be a little high and a little fast in the power, so that you can give yourself a little bit of wiggle room if things start going bad. Because if you got low and slow, I mean, bad things happen, and bad things have happened to naval aviators over many, many decades of hitting the back of the carrier.
Yeah. So for those who still don't understand what's going on, the best analogy I've ever been able to give somebody about what the meatball is and the Fresnel lens and all that is, if you've ever been sitting at one of the newfangled traffic lights where you can see the light that's in your lane and it's very dim or not lit up at all for the light that's to the next lane, that's the technology they're using. It's kind of a focused light, and you can only see it when you're in the right lane. So when you're on glide slope, you see the one that's in the middle.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And if you don't see it and you're behind the ship, that's a very bad day. You're either hopefully too high, or if you're too low, like, I mean,
Clara high.
Yeah, Clara high. And Clara means like you don't see the ball. Repeat. Is that like I never knew. Is that like clarify? I mean, I always just knew Clara, but like
CLARA. I don't know. Fig, you got an answer to that one? I don't.
I'm asking Sticks.
I just knew it was Clara, and like Clara. So for people listening, you would if you don't see the so in the movies Clara? Like Maverick, you're 3/4 of a mile, call the ball. Maverick has the ball. Right? That doesn't really happen. Yeah. It only happens at night or in really bad weather for case 2 and for case 3. Case 1 is VMC, beautiful day, and we would usually fly. Well, we'd certainly fly in bad weather, but we never flew at night. We weren't allowed to fly at night. And that's another fun fact with C2isms.
Gig.
Yeah.
That's a really good gig if you can get that.
Right? Yeah, how do I sign up for that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what all the guys say. But, as a man and as a former naval aviator, it's like, I wish I had that badge of honor. But I think I knew one of the last females to fly at night. She was in my squadron, an amazing pilot. And it just, she was a few years, maybe 10 years my senior. C2s used to fly on at night. But the fear was, I don't know if anything ever happened, but the fear was because we break all the time and because we carry on all the important people, if we either A, going to kill somebody landing on the boat at night just for the sake of getting him to the carrier at night, or B, we're going to land on the boat and then get stuck on the boat at night and not be able to do the mission the next day. And they'd rather have the C2 stuck on land to get repaired, obviously, than on the carrier. And so it came down to a safety and this is not really worth it. Like we're contributing to the war effort, but we're not necessarily dropping bombs on anybody, or obviously we're not dropping bombs on anybody. So we do plenty of sunset, and we would land an hour before sunset, take off a minute before sunset, and then we'd fly at night all the time on land. We just would never land on the carrier at night. But I wish I did. Sure. I wish I had that.
Okay.
To brag about.
Thanks for the clarification.
Fig, you got any more naval aviation questions? Clarification on my position.
Yeah, so it is clarification. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Sticks.
I thought it was Aunt Clara from Bewitched. I'm confused.
Yeah.
You got to be old enough to know what Bewitched is.
Sure.
But, yeah. Oh, well. So if you get any more naval aviation stuff, or should we start asking him about his current gig and the things he's doing?
I'm looking back through my notes, and everything that I noted that I wanted to get clarification on or ask, I've already got it.
All right.
So you're Clara good.
Clara, yeah.
So, all right. Well, first of all.
Whoa, one more question. I was thinking about this.
Classic Fig right there.
When you were talking about the Fresnel lens, the ball. It is gyro stabilized, right? Up to a certain degree. I did have another question besides this. So once the deck of the ship is pitching beyond a certain limit, it doesn't do you any good. Do you guys have your own LSOs? Does the CODs have their own LSOs?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
But it is like I thought, and the nickname is Paddles, right? For people listening, I thought about being a Paddles. It's very hard to do that because I told you we fly out with 7 pilots on deployment, one of which is the officer in charge, and there's only 2 C2s. So we have 6 basically pilots, because the OIC would only fly to get, stay current. And it was basically doing our detachment, that's what we called our squadron, our mini squadron was a detachment. It was doing them a disservice to go on the carrier and wave to be an LSO. But I mean, being an LSO is a huge badge of honor. It's a pride issue. Like, I think I would have been a really good paddles, like, call the boat, Roger boat. Like, it's fun because you really get to know what's going on. But the ship really didn't want us there. And our commander, I mean, this is for all C-2 pilots. Like, they do exist, but they're very hard because you have to wave. Waving is the term for, you have to watch planes land. I don't know what's called waving because of the old paddles they used to use back in the day.
Wave paddles.
Waving. But you have to do, there you go. You have to do that enough to stay current and to get good. And it's hard to do that when you're only one of 6 guys or girls stationed 100 miles from the carrier on land. Like the E2 guys and the Hornet Bubbas, like they would, being an LSO basically gets them out of duty, gets them out of, all these other things. And they're already on the ships. They would just go, like, they would wave for basically a day, like 24 hours straight, all the cycles. Short answer is yes, we could be paddles or LSOs, but it was very difficult to do that. And the ship was kind of like, yeah, you guys are paddles, but like, I don't think we carried the same clout. It's just because we couldn't physically put in the hours to do it the right way is what it comes down to.
One last thing, RobRoy. OIC. I know what it is, but what is, you heard that you threw out the term OIC.
Officer in charge.
The head guy. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought of being an LSO as the guy who gets to watch all his buddies fly.
Yeah. Yeah. But I will say this,
part of it.
With paddles.
If you do it.
No, go ahead, repeat. Sorry.
I was going to say, if you do it, you're occupied doing that a lot. So
you are. I mean, but you become a better pilot because of it. Because
it's
you
cool.
literally see thousands of traps and whatnot. And those guys are amazing. I mean, I have the utmost respect for all them because they look at your plane, E2, C2 Hornet, and they know exactly where they can hear it. And if you watch videos and some, my videos or other ones, and why is everyone on the flight deck wearing crazy ear protection and eye protection? The guys in the back are wearing sunglasses and little, foamies in their ear. It's because they need to be able to hear the engines of the planes landing. And they go, okay, like he's a little low, like power. Like they control that whole thing.
It is amazing.
Something else with that, but yeah, it's amazing what they do. And then, every time we land, we get graded on our landings. And so I wasn't paddles, and there's all these there's these, like, somebody can maybe sticks you can put on the screen, like, give me a Google, like a landing pass rating from a naval, landing signaling officer or something. It would be like OS / right, all this stuff. And what it means is like where you are on GlideSub, like in the beginning or at the start, in the middle, at the end, like at the ramp, and it tell you if you're high or low. But you would always get debriefed every single time. Even we would too as C2 guys. Yeah. And so they'd find us on the boat after we land, either that day or the next day, because we were oftentimes gone. And you would have to, not have to, but you would get to listen to your score. And obviously, you are not God's gift to naval aviation.
Little overshoot, high at the start.
Yep.
Ease guns to land.
There you go. And you'd be, and my no thing grade. I'd say I'd be like, that's what I saw, paddles. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Like, you just take it. Yeah. Even though like, you're like, I was good, a little high, like all the way down, but you just, take it like, all right, appreciate that. Okay. Fair. No grade. Sure.
Yeah. And okay underline. So, all right.
Yep. Thank you.
Well, yeah, indeed. Thank you. So here's the thing that I've noticed, and I'm a little pissed off about it. In a good way, I guess. We've got lots of people watching us on YouTube. Right now, 8 are watching us, Fig, and 27 are watching RobRoy on his channel. So for everybody watching RobRoy on his channel, this is So There I Was. It's a podcast, comes out every Thursday morning. So find us there. We do the live stream recording of the recording session. Obviously, you have a channel. You put out a lot of videos. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that and where your project is moving forward with Flybuyer and such.
Yeah, so like I was telling Fig earlier, the channel is just my name, RobRoy. And again, for people listening to the second episode, if you go to youtube.com/@FlyRobRoy, you'll find me, or just Google RobRoy Navy, and you'll see my videos pop up. But I mean, I just passed 100,000 subscribers recently, and I've built up a little bit of an audience, and
great, dude.
They're awesome. Yeah. My subscribers are amazing. I mean, some of them are in here with some comments. And again, sorry, my voice is, I'm about to like lose it from being sick. Yeah. But I recorded some videos, all the stuff we've been talking about for fun in like 2015, 2016. Excuse me. And it was for my wife at the time and my mom, I was like, I couldn't even afford a second GoPro to match the first GoPro. I had a GoPro Hero 2 and a GoPro Hero 4. And that's significant because the Hero 4 had 4K and the Hero 2 was only up to 1080. I mean, now they're like Hero, 10 or 12 or. But like some of the videos, if you look at them, like one of the screens is actually really clear. And I do split screens, Fig, if you haven't seen it. It's like the top is my face and the bottom, right? And some of them are like the top is really clear and the bottom is like a little bit pixelated. That's because it's only 1080. But I record these videos, and what was unique about them is that I decided I was like, the C-2 is pretty boring compared to like a Hornet, and the cockpit is so cluttered and dark. I mean, we don't have a glass, pan or canopy and all this stuff. We did have a bubble though. We had like a window that like kind of come out, so you could stick your head to the side and like see a little bit. It wasn't just straight back. I think E2 is like this. So I had this kind of GoPro hard arm and like with a crazy clamp, and I found the spot and I like stuck it out into the little bubble window. And the way it was angled was you could see over my shoulder, so you could see the carrier in all those videos. And the other one sweet. I put on us. And at the time, a lot of people, I mean like the 3 or 4 that ever did it, would only record like on the dash looking forward, or it would be like their faces. And so I kind of combined the two, and that's I think what made the videos blow up literally to get millions of views, because especially ones like my visor's up for whatever reason because of the sun not being necessarily too bright. You could see like my eye moving, you could see like the yoke going crazy, and people are like, "What is this guy doing? He doesn't know how to fly. Like, look at that yoke moving." From a YouTube standpoint, because I'm a YouTuber now, I guess it garnered a lot of comments and interest, and like so the video therefore kind of pops. And it's not just like in my first couple of videos, I just upload like raw. I did the split screen, but there's no music in them, and I wasn't doing any voiceovers. Then I started doing voiceovers about a year ago, and I already at that point had millions and millions of views on the videos. But I noticed a trend when the videos first came out. It was like this guy, that, who is this guy, or what's this guy doing, or whatever. And then now it's like, oh, hey, Rob, because I would introduce myself in the videos. Hey, this is me. This is not some lad Bible or some supercar blondie nonsense of like some video being posted on the internet, on the interwebs. And so that's how my channel started off. And then I was going to pivot to a new channel, but I've since decided I was going to pivot my current channel, but I've since decided to start a new channel, and it's going to be called Flybuyer, I believe, as of today. And it's to support my new business. So I am starting a business called Flybuyer. And for my viewers listening here, they're tuning in. Some of them are part of my newsletter, and I have a weekly newsletter at flybuyer.com. That's FLYBUYER. And it's a free newsletter. I would love if you signed up. If you are a pilot, if you touch an airplane to work on it, if you love aviation, if you are a rich, business owner and you fly business aviation, anybody that really is around general aviation, this newsletter is for you. But really, it's kind of phase 1 and 2 of my plan. So Flybuyer will ultimately become a real business in the aircraft space. But right now, as it exists, it is a newsletter. And what I want to do is I'm going to start, I've already done, and maybe Sticks, we can show, a photo. I've started to do airplane reviews. So I am doing full on, I call them reviews. That's me in front of a Vision Jet 2 weeks ago, but they're really airplane walkarounds. They are walk-around videos. I am not an expert on every airplane. I'm barely an expert on one, or at least I used to be. So the videos are really from more of a, like I can talk the talk being a pilot, but I'm not type rated any of these planes. I don't know the ins and outs. I'm more seeing it from a first time perspective. In the case of that Vision Jet, I sit in the back of the airplane and I'm like, okay, like I'm 6 foot, 200 pounds, like my knees are hitting this, or, the seat swivels this way. Like, oh, here are the cup holders. It really is. If you watch car reviewers on YouTube, it's kind of the same thing. That's the Freedom Fox, Trent Palmer's plane. I flew out to Reno to film that a few weeks back, right before he sold it. And if you picture those photos you just put on the screen, picture 50 or 100 of those will be the thumbnails of the new channel. And that will be the entire direction of Flybuyer. And so I was going to pivot it from my current channel, but being really in the weeds with YouTube, it seems that I would probably get punished by the algorithm, which algorithm is really a fancy word for the audience and people like in our comments, real people listening or watching the videos. Because people like T and my other fans, they sign up for carrier landings and catapult shots. And YouTube tells me that those people watch other carrier landings and catapult shots. But doing an airplane walk around video, and to be clear, these aren't even going to be flying videos. They're purely on the ground. I mean, if I can start the airplane up, that'd be great. But I mean, I'm going to be doing G6s and G5s and also some random home build airplane. I mean, I can't go flying in every single one of those. But that is going to be my new channel starting. And then the idea is that RobRoy, my current channel, will live on because I'm very proud of that channel. And I, as we mentioned before in this podcast or the other episode, going to get a Bear Hawk and have some backcountry bush flying under my belt at some point. And I want to kind of make that a backcountry, like a continuation of my flying channel. One of the visions I actually have in life is to bring homeless people or veterans or, kids from the inner city. Like, literally take somebody in New York City, and I'd love to be able to fly them out commercially or private. That'd be even better. And 24 hours later, they're in Montana, and we go flying in the backcountry and land and go camping for 2 days. That's what I want to do. I'd love to give back to people like that. So that's probably what my channel will become in a couple of years. But Flybuyer, my new channel that will be launching very, very soon, is going to be full airplane reviews. And to sum this whole thing up, if you watch Doug Jamiro on YouTube or any car reviewer, picture that, but for airplanes. And that's my new shtick.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you nothing but great success, my friend.
Yeah. Thanks, Fig.
Repeat, you are muted. We have no idea what you just said. Please come back.
No, I was just saying, man, that's nice. And clearly you've done something right to get 100,000 viewers. Obviously, doing cool shit like flying it on off carriers and filming it is,
it is cool.
Amazing.
And I wish I, knew what I knew now. I'd be like, hey guys, we're going out to the ship. I would do it very differently.
Right.
I just filmed it for fun.
Did it for your own.
Yeah. And then, but it's worked out. It's been fun to see that grow.
Yeah. Very cool. Awesome. Well, I think we, I'm going to sign up to that newsletter. It sounds really cool.
Yeah.
And, I have to come look at my Grumman Tiger. She's in the paint shop right now. So
I flew a Grumman Tiger. I had an E2 buddy that owned a Grumman Tiger, and they got paid him $50 an hour to rent it out, and I pay for my own gas. And he let me and some other E2 C2 pilots fly. It was a great little plane.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah,
I went in for a 4 to 6 week.
And I'll say this:
4 to 6 week paint job, and here we are 5 months later. I'm bound to get it back any day now. So.
And you're up in New England, right? Repeat.
I'm in New England. The airplane's actually down in Florida. Part of the delay was 2 hurricanes.
Right,
one was a direct hit, and fortunately, the guy who had the shop bolted the hangar doors together into the floor. So
great,
it survived.
Yeah, half my family's in Southwest Florida, so they had the same fate a little bit. But yeah, on that note, I would absolutely love to review that airplane. And for people listening, this is kind of my ask. If you have really any airplane, but the more unique or expensive or cool, the better. But, the Grumman Tigers, the Cessna 172s, all that I want to do. I'm not trying to review this airplane is N number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to say this is the Grumman Tiger, right? And that would be my Grumman Tiger video. Unless a 2025 version magically came out or whatever. But then it'd be this is my MiG video. This is a C. I'm going to do a C1 trader. This is my C1 video. I've done the Vision Jet. That's the Vision Jet video. There's not going to be another one. I did Trent Palmer's Freedom Fox. That's going to be my Kit Fox video. I've done a Piper Saratoga 2 TC, and I did a Kodiak 100 and a PC-12. So the idea is that, and this really leads into what Flybuyer will become eventually. I'm trying to build up a video library of airplanes so that when people, pilots or buyers, and that whether that's a corporate buyer like guy sits in the back of the airplane or an owner-operator, wants to see the airplane, and then go to Flybuyer and look up all the different reviews of the airplane. And no, it's not flying. Do I wish it was? Maybe. But at the same time, I think it kind of takes out the noise and the clutter because, planes fly the way they fly. But I really want to show this is a cargo plane. How much cargo can we get in there? Maybe we put car seats in the back. Can car seats fit in this thing? What does that look like? Or where do your knees actually hit? And then, of course, a little avionics overview and whatnot. But, I'm not an expert on these planes, like I said before. So it really is going to be just as many, if you own really any airplane, but if you own anything unique, whether that's a MiG or the Goodyear blimp or have access to or fly, I want it all. Any these random Scottish Bulldog. I've had people reach out to me with all kinds of airplanes. It's just getting to where they are across the country is my next challenge. So they could send me an email. If you send me an email at rob@flybuyer.com, so FLYBUYER, sign up for the newsletter. That'd be great. But send me an email if you got an airplane, and love to figure out a way to film that one for my new channel.
Outstanding. All right.
That's exciting shit, man. I hope it goes gangbusters for you.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. It's a new venture, for sure.
I think it will. You got plenty of followers that can't help but get a little bit going. So
yeah, exactly.
So, all right.
But I hate it's one thing to leave an audience with 100,000 subscribers and start with one from zero. That was a tough pill to swallow, but it kind of came down to, it would be better to start with 100% of a new audience that really wants to be there versus taking 10 to 20% of my old audience. And like YouTube would, serve, well, like if I go from carrier landing catapult shot to like vision jet walk around, the algorithm is going to say, well, this video sucks because no one's watching it. And then like, therefore all my other videos would basically not perform well. But if I start at zero and showing those pictures that Sticks did earlier, I mean, those would be the thumbnails. I mean, those would be like literally.
And you can absolutely advertise on your current channel. People aren't going to be upset about that. So
I'm going to do a transition video. Like I'm going to have at least one video saying this is what I did in the Navy, this is what I'm doing now, and then the channel's not going to die. I'm very proud of my current channel, and this is going to be the new one, and that's where I'll put my focus effort into moving forward.
All right.
Maybe those assholes over at So There I Was can pimp for you a couple.
Maybe we'll see.
Times. Very nice and
maybe you could plug us to your 100,000.
Absolutely, we're doing it right now.
10 times what we got. So So anybody listening on the live stream, come give us a check out. We've got a bunch of naval aviators and Marines and Air Force and some amazing stories we've had, including yours. So thank you so much for your service and for joining us today and taking time out of your day to tell us about what you've been doing and what you're going to do. That's great.
Yeah, it's a great story, RobRoy. Thank you for your service. Thanks for everything.
Sticks is the real unsung hero of this podcast.
He is.
He really
Sticks
is. He's doing some great production work, and what a great.
Those guys are in the background making magic happen.
Whatever you're paying them, double it.
Awesome. Oh yeah,
there you go. Right,
they're doing it for the big bucks. Let me tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's Sticks, and sometimes Bago. Bago isn't here today. He's actually having to work for a living. So, and thanks to Dave Hamilton over at backbeatmedia.com, helps handle all our advertising. And who else do we need to thank, Fig?
Well, we need to thank. Well, we did. So I say thanks to Sticks and Bago. We also need to thank BDS Aviation Photography, badass Brad Silcott, for letting us use those awesome pictures that he provides.
Absolutely. Thanks to FTI Ratings for continuing to support us. Looks like Robin's Bird Brain Designs is going to come back for Christmas to support us too. So thanks to them. And we got another advertiser in the wings. Looks like they're coming in, so that's helpful. We're deeply appreciative of that. We'll talk more about that very soon. Thank you to the Dos Gringos for letting us use your music.
You gringos, man.
Help make us sound better.
That's right.
Fantastic stuff. Some, not for your under 7-year-olds, though. They are not going to,
no.
A little bit raw, too raw.
Someday.
Yeah, someday.
Yeah.
So it's definitely R-rated music, but good stuff. So, all right. Well, thank you, New Lips. Going to try and talk.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Yeah. What Fig said.
Yeah.
Thanks to you guys. Appreciate it. Big
thanks, RobRoy.
Repeat and Sticks. Thanks for having me on. And just, again, as a former host myself, I appreciate the work you guys are put into it behind the scenes. I know it's a lot, and I'm grateful. Thanks for sharing my story, and best of luck with the podcast. Hope to see it grow and grow.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Until next week, stay safe and check 6.
See you.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
It's definitely...
He said it's over. He said it's over.
Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
You can't fix stupid.